Welcome to episode 95 of the Toadstool Boardroom for the week of June 26th, 2024. I'm Logan Plant, joined this week just by Justin Korais. Hi, Justin.
Hey, Logan.
You're gaining a reputation as the man who hates Nintendo, the man who
Apparently.
hates Zelda. Yeah, what do you have to say to defend yourself here?
Look. You know what? I got my butt beat in the comments on the YouTube video, and I love it. Keep doing it.
Yeah, last week was far and away our most popular episode ever. We were breaking down the Nintendo Direct, and we were divided on The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and that got a ton of you talking. So we did pick up a fair amount of new subscribers, both on
Nice.
audio and video. So if you're new to the Boardroom, welcome. It doesn't get that heated every week, but it's pretty fun when it does. I had a really good time last week, and I think a lot of our listeners did as well. So yeah, we're here, and we're going to follow up actually a little bit on that Nintendo Direct from last week, because you wrote in, we asked for you to tell us what you thought of Zelda, what you thought of the Direct, and you all really showed out and answered. So our first topic here for this week is kind of revisiting last week's Nintendo Direct from some new angles. And what did you think? So I want to start with these two emails that came in, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com. You can also drop your thoughts in our Discord server, on Twitter at ToadstoolBR, really wherever, and we'll include it in the show. And these two both bring up the same point. So I want to start here. And this one comes from Chad, who says his favorite game was Echoes of Wisdom, which looks charming, creative, ambitious, and fun. To me, it feels like the potential beginning of us getting even more mainline Zelda games that feature Zelda as the main playable protagonist over the next years/decades. Also, it was great to see and hear from Eiji Aonuma in this direct. I agree. It is always fun to see him pop up. And then Squid Cal from our Discord server said, new Zelda being a monkey's paw. Justin is lamenting that this is what we're getting for a game where you play as Zelda. But to clarify, this is the first game we're getting where you play as Zelda. The fact this exists does not preclude us from getting what Justin envisions. It makes it more likely, especially if this is successful. So, Justin, let me turn it back to you. Could this just be the start of us playing as Zelda? Because last week you were lamenting, oh, this is a monkey's paw. I want to play in a big open world 3D 100-hour adventure as Zelda. And this is not that. This is what you view as a handheld equivalent on Switch. So do you think this could just be the start?
I mean, could it? Sure. Like anything is possible. I would love for that to be the case. I would love for this to do extremely well. I would love for this to be a great video game and for people to love it and Nintendo to be like, holy smokes, putting Zelda front and center is great. That's the best case scenario. But like to clarify a couple things, like this is not the first time you get to play as Zelda, and no, I'm not talking about Wand of Gamelon. I mean, you've been able to play as her in Age of Calamity and in the other Hyrule Warriors.
Cadence of Hyrule is one
a,
that I meant to mention last week that I didn't.
Yeah, exactly. And the I suppose my broad point to our buddy Squidkel is that I don't know that Nintendo has a great track record though of giving us here's a like what was the Princess Peach game from like a million years ago that was all about her being emotional and things like
Super
that.
Princess Peach
I don't
on
know.
DS.
Yeah, I don't know that they have a great track record of that. I'm hoping that this is different. I'm hoping that we get to see something really cool. I mean, perfect example. Like how long did people ask for a new Kid Icarus game, and we got Kid Icarus Uprising, and what have we seen from that since?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that this existing makes what my dream Zelda game coming to fruition. I don't know that this makes that any more or less likely. I don't know what the impact is there, and I don't think Nintendo's history isn't clear on the subject.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. I think Nintendo, they're unpredictable. They zig and zag all over the place, and you never know what they're going to. Yeah, absolutely. But I know last week you took an issue with the term mainline, but to me that is still a big deal. I think you look at Super Princess Peach and Princess Peach Showtime, those aren't Super Mario games. They're not to that quality. And I know you don't like the top-down, what you called handheld Zeldas as much, which I don't agree. Link to the Past is not a handheld side story. That's a mainline game.
I mean,
that I'm pretty sure you love.
I adore that game. I think it's one of the best of the series, and I can give you a long explanation for why I don't consider it the same as something like Link's Awakening, but I don't know if we
Oh
want to do
yeah,
that right now.
I think Link's Awakening is that the Link's Awakening remake to me was very clearly a remake of a Game Boy game, but for me, Link Between Worlds is the one to point to. That's the last time they took this franchise out for a ride in a traditional new top-down 2D fashion, and I think that this feels like a follow-up to that. It looks like Link's Awakening, but Link's Awakening takes what, 6 or 7 hours to beat? I'm not expecting that from this. I would be shocked if I spend conservatively, I'll say 15 hours, I think 20 hours to finish this thing, and for me, that's great. I get you have your reservations about that, but to me, it's a mainline game. Aonuma did show up, like we talked about last week, and I think it could just be the start if it does go well, and I think that it will. I think this is probably going to sell pretty decently well, but I am still going to say the next game Aonuma and Fujibayashi are working on, you're going to play as Link. I still think that's going to be the case for the next one. So maybe after that, maybe in 12 years, we'll be playing a new 3D game where you control Princess Zelda. Who knows? And then we have another. Oh, go for it, Justin.
I want to jump in real quick because I also wanted to call attention to one of the comments actually from the YouTube video from a username Rikux27 RIKUX27 that I think does a pretty good job pointing to some of my concerns too, which is to summarize what they're saying is that rather than it being like a big solo adventure, it really seems to be leaning really heavily into the kind of new era Zelda games that is much more like puzzle driven and less like combat oriented. Not that her combat needs to be 1-to-1, and I think that's some of the concerns too. That the grand adventure and again like Link to the Past, a grand adventure. I have a thick instruction manual with amazing stories and 7 sages and all these things I could walk you through. And so as much as a lot of people that didn't appreciate my thoughts on it, there were some people who shared some of my concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's lots of people that are not happy with the current direction of Zelda as a whole, and I know you don't feel that way from the 3D perspective. You're a big fan of both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but yeah, there's some hesitation out there. I get it. It's a fascinating announcement, and I guess for me, even if I was on the side where I didn't like it, at least they're still trying new things with their series, which you can't say about everything. Yeah,
well,
and then
I want to love this game, so
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we got another one this is from our Discord server. I think it's M. Colnane, sorry if I butchered that, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, who says, enjoyed the latest episode. Shame the fierce disagreements resulted in a permanent dissolution of the board halfway through. I wish the three of you all the best in your future endeavors. Yeah, Chris is gone. He is off the show. Yeah, he's definitely not just taking a week off. He's gone forever. It's sad. I get both sides of the Zelda discussion. I'm really looking forward to it, and I think it will be bigger and deeper than a 15-hour handheld equivalent. Prepared to be wrong on that front. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We still don't know much. Yeah. And then Tim says, I really like what Tim said about Zelda. Loved the discussion from last week's episode. Want to mention the reaction that came from 2 of my daughters I watched the direct with, aged 5 and 3, was electric. They went wild over the fact that Zelda was playable and how beautiful everything looked. Knowing their brand of humor, I know they're going to get an absolute kick out of just plopping beds all around Hyrule and all the random nonsense this game will allow from its core mechanics. I cannot wait to play this with them. Yeah, and we saw very similar reactions, I think, to Princess Peach Showtime, with a lot of young girls really liking getting to play as Peach in her own game.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that I would add to that is I think the playing as Princess Zelda is by far the most exciting element of this, and that's not to take away from anything else that they're doing. I just think that is such a big deal to have her front and stage, and to have the titular character from one of Nintendo's longest running and most important franchises really be the star front to back. I think that's awesome.
I went through withdrawal of the Nintendo Direct. I've been thinking about it all week. So I turned to looking at people's reaction videos to the announcements of all the exciting stuff, and seeing people just freak out. What moment in the trailer they realized that it's Zelda that you're going to play as. That was super fun. And it was different points for everybody. For some, it was the second she pops out of the crystal. For some, it wasn't until the title reveal. Like, yeah, that was a really, really great bait and switch trailer, how they kind of presented it to us. But Tim goes on and says, in terms of my personal thoughts outside of them, I'm still overjoyed by what I'm seeing so far. I think the game represents a smart way to mix up the typical 2D Zelda format, indicates that they're leaning into the philosophy they went into Tears of the Kingdom with by creating a world where fun things can happen, and looks like a title that holds a manageable time commitment with plenty of replayability. I think the core mechanics do Zelda's character justice, but as discussed in the episode, I'll need to see more before I make a verdict on her character. The split-second clip when we see the two types of Zora talking has me wonder if we will also see Zelda using her status to repair political rifts between others, as well as the physical rifts in the kingdom. I love that theory crafting, Tim. That's awesome. I await more information, but I'm totally getting this anyway. And here on Tim's thoughts, I wanted to shout out the line where he said that what they went into Tears of the Kingdom with by creating a world where fun things can happen, because that is exactly what Aonuma said in the GDC talk about Tears of the Kingdom earlier this year, is that they created this system where you really hand control over to the player and just see what they can do. And they talked about how difficult that was. And yeah, I get that people want the old style, but they have kind of forged a path in this new gameplay style that very few others have kind of managed to perfect. So I'm happy to let them run with it.
Yeah, and I certainly think that that's the least of the issues. I do wonder, a lot of what I think makes it so fun and so great to share stories from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is the way that things can collapse in catastrophic and hilarious ways. I wonder if the apparent simplicity of a more isometric 2D view lends itself to that. Like if I'm building a staircase out of beds, can it collapse and leave me buried under a mass of wood and pillows and things like that? I don't know, if I summon a bunch of chickens and then I accidentally throw a rock at one, am I then having, my army turn on me?
That'd be so great. That's such a good idea. I bet they do that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so a lot of it is going to depend on how this open imaginative style translates into something that's a little bit more, that's at least to me seems like it's likely to be a little bit more constrained, and maybe it's not, and maybe it just goes buck wild. But either way, as long as we can get those moments, those ones where I'm like, Logan, you're not going to believe what happened to me, and then we go back and forth with those stories, I'll be pretty happy with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Also, I just want to add, I hadn't even thought about the fact of Zelda leveraging her position as a royal in political ways and things like that. Sorry, if that is a thing, this is my game of the year, because that sounds so much fun.
Yeah, I hope the characters she's interacting with know who she is, because she is wearing that hood. So is that just going to be a cheap, oh, you're a hooded figure, we don't know who you are? No, I want people to know that this is Zelda who's running around and doing stuff in Hyrule. So that'd be really, really cool. And then our last email on Zelda comes from Jay, who says, first off, I'm excited about this announcement. I think Nintendo will gauge interest in this game and take that into consideration for future titles. Yeah, I think it's safe to say they always at least take it into consideration. Whether or not they act on it is a different story. And Jay goes on, second, I think this is two games, like a Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons/Ages. One, Echoes of Wisdom, is puzzle-based. The other, Echoes of Courage, is combat-based. In Echoes of Courage, you pick up wherever Link is sent and play through his campaign to find Zelda. Both campaigns lead you to each other. Then you have a third campaign combining the two characters. How awesome would that be? How do you think Nintendo could pull this off if this is the case? I'll just say I don't think it's the case, sadly. As awesome as it sounds, but I want to hear what Justin thinks.
I think that all of those culminating in the Echoes of Power would be incredible. Absolutely astounding. And you're right. They attempted something like that, but it didn't actually pan out. They didn't what you got at the end was supposed to be its own entire adventure when you leading up to the resurrection of Ganon, and they really had to pare it down and turn it into something that wasn't quite what it was meant to be, but still cool from what I understand. I haven't played through the two of those and gotten to that point. I would love that though. I mean, that would be some Xenoblade Chronicles tier bait and switch into something really cool. So I would absolutely adore that. Especially what would an Echoes of Power game even be? Who would you be in something like that? How would that work? Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it would be really, really cool, because like Justin was saying, there was supposed to be a third Oracle game called Oracle of Secrets. It never happened. Instead, there was just a final boss fight once you link the two games, once you've completed both Seasons and Ages. I think there's a little boss rush at the end where you fight Twin Rova or something like that, and then you fight Ganon afterwards. I haven't played them either.
And it wasn't even like a full. It was like a badly resurrected Ganon or something like that in the story, like incomplete. And it's a bummer that never came to fruition because I do like the concept.
It's also a really cool idea they tackled on the Game Boy Color, by the way. That's super cool that they did that back then. But yeah, the Oracle games are two of the only Zeldas left I have not played. I've been holding out for a remake, and actually, because of this Echoes of Wisdom announcement, I've started playing Oracle of Ages. I've said, okay, I'm done waiting for these to be remade. I'm playing them on Switch Online to finally see what they're all about. It's really, really cool so far. I'll probably talk about them more once I have them.
I'm like a half hour into Oracle of Seasons.
Oh, nice. Very similar. I've only played like an hour or two. Did you just start it recently?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I love how that game looks on the big screen. Like the colors and the pixel art translates really, really well. They're really cool games. But I don't think this is the case, Jay. It would be really, really awesome. But if they were doing two games, they would have showed us both already. I just think they would have announced them together. Also, I don't know. I think that games are so hard to make now and take so long to make that it's not reasonable to assume that they were developing two games side by side, depending on the scope of this thing, which, again, we're still saying we don't really know. I would love it, but there's part of me that wants the spotlight to just stay fully on Zelda. We don't need to split it up and have another game where you play as Link and they meet each other. Let's let Zelda be the hero for this entire story is kind of how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, too. I don't want to steal Zelda's thunder from being at the center of her own game. And I would definitely, I would rather this be a 20-hour experience rather than this be one of 3 7-hour experiences, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And there is a clip in the trailer that we have for Echoes of Wisdom where Zelda is running in kind of a dark world looking area where the rifts are chasing her. I'm not talking about the intro scene where she's chased out of the cave. There's a little clip later in the trailer where it looks like she's solving puzzles and plopping down boxes and crates to jump away from this rift that is slowly approaching towards her. And the lighting looks really gloomy. It looks like the dark world. So I think that Zelda is already going to go to the place wherever Link was sucked down into. So I think we can expect that because pretty much every top-down Zelda has some version of a dark world since A Link to the Past. They kind of all do it. Link's Awakening doesn't on the handheld, but the Oracle games both do it with changing the seasons or changing the time. Link Between Worlds has low rule. Like, this is a thing they do. So I think we can expect Zelda to do that. So it would be cool, though. I'm all for more Zelda games. It would be fun for them to revisit that. And then last note I have on Zelda, I almost wrote it in email form as a joke for Justin, but I didn't. There's going to be amiibo support for this thing. On the Japanese webpage for Echoes of Wisdom, if you scroll down, there is right next to the age rating, there is an amiibo icon. And this will be, if I'm not mistaken, the first-party game with amiibo support since Pikmin, which was a year ago next month. There hasn't been... Mario Wonder didn't have it. The RPGs didn't have it. Princess Peach didn't have it. So the simple fact, Justin, that this is going to have amiibo support gives me hope for a Zelda Echoes of Wisdom amiibo.
That was going to be my question. Do you think we're going to get a Echoes of Wisdom style Zelda amiibo? Because even though I'm not an amiibo collector, I might need to snatch that one up if I get the chance.
Yeah, I think so. Even when amiibo support has kind of wavered throughout the years, they've always been so good about Zelda. Like, I was worried we weren't even going to get a Tears of the Kingdom set. We got Link. I was happy-ish with that. It's a great figure. But then they said, oh, and here's Zelda and Ganondorf, too.
What was the last set? Was it that Splatoon set?
I think the last amiibo that we got was Sora. Sora amiibo to wrap up the Smash Brothers set. Yeah. And that kind of felt like the finale, but they're being amiibo support and how good they've been giving amiibo to Zelda games. They even gave an amiibo for like Skyward Sword HD, a remaster of an old game they still made one for. Link's Awakening got one.
Yeah, that was weird too because they locked a feature behind it, which is a strange
People
decision.
were not happy with that. Yeah, that wasn't great. They never quite managed to figure that out. But finally the store pages are up on the American Nintendo website for these games that they've announced. And there is a render of Zelda that looks like the perfect pose for an amiibo. It is her standing there waving the tri-rod. It would look perfect next to the Link's Awakening Link one. So I think it's going to happen. I think that Zelda is maybe a series that will continue to get amiibo because they seem to sell out really fast whenever they make the Zelda run. So I think that would probably happen here too. So that is Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Let's move on to Metroid Prime 4 now. We got an email from Blee who said, ooh-wee, yeah, that was a passionate episode. I loved it. Thank you, Blee. I will say about the Prime 4 footage, it was interesting to see that, yeah, it's still very much a Prime game. After being in development for so long, I was wondering if it might have a way different feel, but early footage suggests that isn't the case. And I actually want to start this segment with a correction from something I said that was wrong last week that a YouTube comment kindly pointed out, and then I did some digging on it. I said that my vibe from this trailer was that Nintendo just handed Prime 4 to Retro and said, here, it's your project now. But that is not the case. When Prime 4 rebooted development in January of 2019, Imran Khan tweeted out, hearing that the big problem with Metroid Prime 4 development was Nintendo's experimental ad hoc development process. It was being made in parts in different countries. Some studios were trucking along saying it was going smoothly, while it was on fire elsewhere. Internal thinking was that it needed to be done all under one roof to right the ship. Retro made the pitch for their involvement and put together a demo that Nintendo liked. So that is a reputable report saying Retro did have an idea 5 years ago for Prime 4. Justin, I feel like they're still holding a lot of this really close to the chest.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we love Nintendo, as we always talk about, they're probably the most opaque company in the industry, too.
Yes.
So I doubt that we'll ever get a complete picture of it. I do like, conceptually, this idea that they didn't just say, hey, Retro, save us. Retro came to the table and said, hey, we've got some ideas. Like, we have thoughts about what we want to do with this franchise, and they put something together that they could actually show, and that it was enough for Nintendo to be like, yeah, okay, forget all this money that we spent on development. This is the path that we're going to take. To me, that is a positive development in its story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. The fact that it wasn't just in case of emergency break and call Retro Studios, it was actually, hey, we have a plan in place. Because I guess my fear, because I don't remember this report from 5.5 years ago, my fear was that they announced this too early, it didn't work out, and maybe if they hadn't announced it, they would have just canceled it. But instead, it was already out there publicly, so they figured out a plan B. But no, it sounds like Retro did have a plan in place that we're still waiting to hear. And so that's exciting. Retro's an awesome studio. And speaking of the talent, VGC put out a really cool piece on who's working on Prime 4 Beyond. And they based all of this on publicly available information on Retro Studios staff from their company website. It hasn't been updated in a little bit, so things may have changed. But I really recommend you go check out this article and just scroll through the talent. They have it kind of formatted in a table of everybody they think is working on this. Because there's people who have been at Retro for a long time that have worked on Prime 1, 2, and 3 and both Donkey Kong Country games they've made. There's people from Halo 4 and 5, which is interesting because a lot of people from Retro left to make Halo 4 and seemingly some came back. People from Demon's Souls, from Sony Santa Monica, the studio behind God of War, gameplay animators from Naughty Dog, and just a lot more. So it seems like Retro is packing a lot of heat in terms of their talent, Justin.
Yeah, and if you spend a lot of time really closely following this industry, something that I think starts to stick out is the fact that video games are not made by studios, they're made by people. And the people who make video games matter a lot. You know, when you have folks with strong pedigrees and strong track records, does that guarantee something it's going to be a hit? No, but that does give you assurances towards quality. And this is a murderer's row of game development talent that they have here. So I feel really good about this.
Yeah, I feel great. I know that the Metroid Prime 4 became a meme easily, and it made sense. We went years and years without hearing about it, and usually when that happens in the games industry, people get worried. Look at something like Beyond Good and Evil 2. What even is that game? Does it exist? Who knows? But something like Nintendo, they just made a marketing mistake. They just made a bad call, drumming up hype in 2017. They announced something too early. But if this had just been revealed and we hadn't heard about it until last week, oh, here's Metroid Prime 4 that Retro's been cooking for the last 5 years, people would be over the moon about this. So this is going to be, I think, really, really great when it comes out next year. Also, this is something I was wondering, Justin, do you think it's coming out next year, or do you think this is going to be like a 3D Zelda situation where we'll get a video with a black background in March and they'll say, we sadly have to push this to 2026?
I think it'll come out. I think that given how long it's been in development and the fact that Nintendo typically rarely has to pull that move,
Hmm.
and the fact that honestly, I I think that like when it comes to Zelda and Aonuma, he has a little bit more sway to say, you know what, I want to let this cook a little bit longer because I got a
Yeah.
bunch of more crazy ideas to stick in there, and they're just gonna say, yeah, okay, whatever you want. I don't know that Metroid and Zelda frankly have that same cachet.
Hmm.
I feel pretty good about them sticking to the release date.
Yeah, I think so too. The only delays I can think of really are Zelda delays. Smash Brothers has been delayed a couple times, but that's a similar situation.
Yep.
Sakurai will not release his baby till it's cooked. So yeah, I think that those guys like that can do what they want. I agree with you.
There is a very short list of people where Nintendo can be like, release your game, and they'll be like, no, and they'll be like, okay.
Yeah, yeah, well, wait. Yeah. And actually another example of that was like Mario Wonder. A little different because it didn't get delayed, but they said, "Hey, we're not going to put a timetable on this. It'll come out when it's
It's
done." And
ready when it's
that
ready.
got them a lot of positive press, which was a great move. We got a question here from reality_Tim, who says, for the last few years, Nintendo has always had at least one game nominated for the Game of the Year award at the Game Awards. Now that we know what Nintendo has to offer for the rest of 2024, which games, if any, do you think will be nominated this year? Zelda and Mario and Luigi seem the two feasible possibilities. Yeah, so last year there was Mario Wonder and Tears of the Kingdom were nominated. The year before that, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was the one that got nominations. Metroid Dread has gotten nominations, things like that. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I think that reality_Tim nailed it on the head with the picks he has there. I think that if the Mario and Luigi brothership is it is a little more ambitious than some of the more recent RPGs we've seen from them, I think that that's got a great shot just in terms of pure quality because it looks fantastic. It looks fun. It
Mm-hmm.
looks like it's going to do a lot of cool things with the brothers, mechanic and things like that. So that's got potential. And I mean, anytime you have a Zelda game, it's always got extremely high potential for Game of the Year discussions. I mean, I don't know that there are many franchises that have a track record where it's pretty much always a finalist anytime they drop a quote mainline title like
Mm-hmm.
Zelda does. So yeah, those are two very, very strong candidates, in particular Zelda.
Yeah, I think Zelda's the pick. I think that I have such high hopes for that game, as I've made very clear the last 2 weeks on this show. I think that's your pick. Mario and Luigi is it's a little bit more niche. It's I think among RPG folks, it's generally viewed as more of a casual one. It's shorter, it's more kid friendly. There's not as much about kind of building out a character like in some other more hardcore turn based RPGs. So we'll see. I still think it's going to be awesome. I'm personally excited for it, but on kind of a national scale of all the media and folks that vote on these nominations, I'm not sure if that one is going to break through. But I also think Endless Ocean has a really, really great shot of being a nominee for Game of the Year. That'd be a fun one to see up there. Just kidding,
Really?
obviously. But Zelda. Zelda's the one. Zelda's the one for sure.
Endless Ocean, a game of the year.
A game. It sure was a game of the year.
It sure was a game of the year.
Speaking of games, Justin, and a really low ball segue, we learned who's making some of these games that we're waiting for to come out. So, Forever Entertainment is the studio that's developing Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. They received significant financial backing from Nintendo in 2021, so it seems really similar to that port studio they acquired earlier this year, where they're pumping money into these studios to port their old games to Nintendo Switch. And Forever Entertainment previously published the House of the Dead remake, Front Mission First remake, Front Mission Second, and Magical Drop 6. So, sure. Okay. This wasn't on my bingo card. I would have guessed it was one of their other studios working on this. Also, Justin, $59.99 is the price for Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. What do you think?
What do I also get in addition to Donkey Kong Country Returns HD for that price?
You get the 3DS exclusive levels in a game that was $40 when it came
Do
out.
I get Magical Drop 1 through 6?
I wish. I wish. Yeah, it's a rough price. It makes no sense. Some of their pricing has made no sense.
Yeah.
Mario vs. Donkey Kong was a full ground up remake for $49.99, and this is $10 more than that. Metroid Prime Remastered was $40, and this is $60. I don't get it.
Yeah, but when you put it in that context, like
Mm-hmm.
I would happily invert those prices and buy Prime. But it's always weird having the conversations about price and
Yeah.
value and
Mhm.
things like that. But I think as long as we're looking at it in comparison to other Nintendo titles and where it slots in with those, it's weird the way they're valuing it in reference to some of those ones that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's like pretty much everything now. It is $60. It is $60. It is $60. With the exception of like Endless Ocean, and then NES. I can never
I'm
get
just
this
glad it
title
wasn't
right.
70. Our two $70 games, Tears of the Kingdom and the seventh port of Donkey Kong Country
Hmm.
Returns HD remake
Yeah, Donkey Kong Country
final
returns,
mix.
returns, returns. Yeah, but Endless Ocean was $50, I think, and then Nintendo World Championships NES edition is 30 digitally, but then still 60 if you get that souped up physical edition. But this one at 60 is just pretty surprising to me, especially with how bare bones it seems. It's and it's so easy to compare to Remastered, Prime Remastered, which was a gorgeous game you almost could have called a remake, and then this is a little more than that. So yeah, that was a tough one I think for some people to swallow. But
You know
60
what it is?
bucks coming.
Maybe they just know that like the number of people who are going to buy this is fixed. It's
Mhm.
just the Chris Shrivers of the world, and they can price it whatever they want, and they're going to buy it.
Yeah, they obviously have some sort of internal research that does
Mhm.
prove exactly what you're saying.
Yep.
Like it sounds funny when you frame it from the perspective of Chris, but it's true. There's people like that and like me that will buy this game, and yeah, $10 isn't going to make a
Yeah,
difference
there's
to
there's an
people like
intersection
us.
point. They call that the Shrive point, and
Yeah.
that's where they need to price it.
Yeah. So $60. It was 50 on Wii, 40 on 3DS, and 60 on Switch. And someone did a trailer breakdown on Twitter. Its lighting and some of its shadows and its models don't look super great. It looks pretty bare bones in terms of a remaster. It's
You
early
know,
though. We got 6 months.
can I tell you like my deep dark gamer confession as somebody who ostensibly
Please do.
really loves production value and things like
Hmm.
that. Like I see things like these Digital Foundry breakdowns. I think that they do great work. And like talk about like the exact frame rates and the exact like voluminous shading and things like that.
Hmm.
I don't care about any of those things when I'm playing. Honestly, I don't care. I barely even notice pop in. Like it's fine. I
Yeah.
really don't
I
care.
agree that it's fine. I'm with you. I'm not. Chris is the one that gets all the complaining in that department out of the way for this show. He'll make sure if we talk about how much we love Age of Calamity, we'll hear about the slideshow frame rate every time.
Mhm.
And I get that. There's people like that, and it's good.
And I can't
But
say that I ever noticed it even once.
okay, I'm maybe a little in between. I definitely noticed how bad the frame rate was, but I just don't mind. Is where I land. But Donkey Kong Country, when I compare it to Tropical Freeze, another port that exists on Switch, and then this one's a direct visual downgrade, it's a little bit of a bummer. And the same can be said about Luigi's Mansion 3 to 2 HD, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But first, let's talk
Special
about
time.
Mario and Luigi Brothership, because they're being really buttoned up, of course, about who's developing that. Come on, guys, it's so weird. But Steven Totillo reached out and asked Nintendo who's making this, and all they said was some of the original developers who worked on the franchise are involved in the development of Mario and Luigi Brothership. For more information about the developers, please stay tuned to the game's credits at release. I'm so sick of it. I say I feel like every week now. I'm so sick of them doing this.
Counterpoint, this is the
Mhm.
Nintendo equivalent of a billboard screaming who worked on this. This is honestly the
Mhm.
most information I think we've gotten about who's developing a game
Yeah.
uh,
Mhm.
since this like ultra secret era started.
Mhm.
And I do like the idea that there are some developers from the original series working on this. As I said earlier, the people making games do matter. It's also a little tough when you're like kind of vague about that. Like maybe it's an artist, maybe it's a guy who worked in IT. I don't know, but there's some
Yeah.
folks there. He's got the
Yeah,
same
it's the
janitor.
person who
Like
draws the
maybe
box art is back to draw the
right.
box art again, or it's the
Right.
director of the game. We don't know.
No,
But
it literally it could be anybody in that spectrum.
Mhm. People have done some digging, Justin, and found that it seems like Ilka, which is I Love Computer Art, which is the studio that worked on Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Pokemon Shining Pearl, those Gen 4 remakes, and then not for Nintendo, they worked on One Piece Odyssey and Sandland, that recent Akira Toriyama
Yeah.
game that came out. It seems like they retained a lot of Alpha Dream talent. They picked up a bunch of those people. So that's currently the theory of who's working
Maybe.
on this, but we don't know. We won't know for 5 months who made this game. Thanks, Nintendo. So
Transparent? No. A little translucent, but not transparent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes. It is good to know, though. I'm with you. That's good information that they said some of the originals are on board. That is good. And they didn't even reveal the Donkey Kong thing. That was Forever Entertainment themselves putting out a press release saying, we're making this. Did Nintendo want them to do that? Unsure, but it's out there now. Yeah, they called them the second after it went up and said, hey.
Right. It just picks up the phone. This is Miyamoto.
Yeah. Please delete this right now. Delete your account. Just like Pyoro has started to delete their account from Twitter. Justin, I think the Pyoro era is over. This is, of course, the infamous Penguin leaker we refer to a lot on this show. Nothing leaked from last week's Nintendo Direct on the first-party front. Zelda didn't leak. Mario and Luigi didn't leak. Pyoro didn't know about any of them. Why? Nintendo didn't put up store pages on their website until today. Nothing from the Direct was on their website except the press release that they blasted out to everybody right after the presentation. They slapped that on the website, and that was it. You couldn't pre-order Zelda on the eShop until today. I think they figured out, hey, someone on our website's back end is who has access to all this stuff, so they just kept it all hush until the Direct was out there, and it worked. And then Pyoro admitted on Twitter, hey, my source has been really quiet lately. And in their DMs, they told Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, of all people, bizarre, bonkers, crazy decision that their source works on Nintendo. Schreier, being a reporter, reported on this, to which Pyoro said, WTF, I didn't know they would include my responses in their report. Unless you ask for off the record, come on, that's going to be on the record. You got to know that and be a little smarter about that. And then Pyoro deleted all posts from the last few years, deleted their profile pic, locked down their account. Justin, is it over?
I think somebody picked up that little penguin and injected him off of the edge of the world. Yeah.
I think so, too. Yeah.
No, yeah. I think that this is evidence, and look, I don't want to be mean about it, but I think that this is evidence that being a leaker is not a sign of an exceptional intelligence or anything to that effect. I think that these dots connect really well. I think the idea that it was store backend stuff that was revealing this information, them not revealing that, and then thus things not getting leaked is a pretty strong indicator of that. It's sort of a, like, you know, if we do this, this is what we expect to see, and that's exactly what you got out of it. So I think that that's a very plausible theory. I think that if you tell arguably the biggest reporter in the industry stuff, and you don't say it's not stuff to report, you shouldn't be surprised that it gets reported. Mm-hmm. And frankly, it feels weird to have to say that at all. So I think that that's a giant all-time fumble. And look, I know that there's going to be some folks who do lament the lack of these leaks, because some folks enjoy that, and I'm not going to tell folks what they should or should not enjoy. But as somebody who does prefer the surprise, frankly, I'm glad that at least one big leaky faucet's been turned off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another, not really Nintendo news, but Midori. If you've been following any of that nonsense that's been happening over the last couple weeks, that's been crazy too. Both of the big leakers kind of seem to fall at the same time. But I made a Star Wars joke before the show with Justin. There always have to be two Sith, so one dies, another rises to replace it. Shortly after the Nintendo Direct finished and Pyoro was called out, posters on is it Reset Era or Reset Era? How do people say it? I don't know that out loud. Yeah, I don't know how people say it. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. Noticed something strange. The night before, an account named Ada Wong wrote, I'm betting on a top-down Legend of Zelda game starring Zelda and a new Mario and Luigi title. Their brothership is too iconic, you know? A message that was right. It was accurate. They nailed it, so we got another one. I don't know how they knew what they knew, but this could be a thing, too. We'll see.
Yeah, I also do wonder how things will change on the Nintendo end. I mean, so because it's a change for them not to have these things ready to go to publish
Yeah.
to go
Mm-hmm.
live. And anybody who's ever worked on like websites and things like that know that there's usually a lot of building that goes in to make sure stuff is ready to go, so that when it's time to publish, you just publish and it goes up. And that can take that can take minutes, hours, days, more depending on the scope of that. And so, like, Nintendo, like, that's a pretty big change in Nintendo's practice. And I think that's proof that they take the leaks really seriously, and they will continue to try and identify avenues where information's getting out, and probably try to identify the folks that are involved in it internally, leading to, like, discipline, externally possibly leading to legal issues for folks. So,
Yeah.
if I would just say, be cautious, folks who are really into leak culture. I would not recommend getting into it yourself, even if it is something that you enjoy. I did want to ask you, Logan, do you think so? There's also coincidentally a job posting that went up about related to some of the back end webpage stuff, and a lot of people are theorizing, they're speculating that somebody who occupied that position around the time that Mr. Penguin disappeared is no longer occupying that position. What are your thoughts on that little conspiracy theory?
I think it's funny. I think it's fun. I think that we'll never know. But sure, you can run with that theory if you want. I don't know. I didn't look into this a ton. I thought I saw someone saying that it was like an internship posting. Maybe it was an intern. Who knows? Because it only started a year ago. Maybe that's how they did it. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's a really fun theory. At the very least, it's a fun coincidence. And at the most, it could be real. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about coincidences. Sometimes they just happen. And I think that's probably the case. I think, I think it's a great example of, as soon as it's happening, people were just going to look for any job posting and say that, oh, that must be it. But it is funny.
Yeah. But I think this is the end of an era. And yeah, to what you were saying about the website and the back end, just to add on to that, I'm sure Nintendo is pretty locked down about who has access to that stuff, especially when they're dealing with sensitive, confidential information. But from my experience at IGN, a ton of people have access to the CMS and can see stuff that's going to go up before it goes up. And yeah, when I was freelancing, I had access to see stuff that I wasn't working on because it was embargoed stuff that staff was working on, but I could see it. I was like, okay, got to keep my mouth shut about that. And yeah, thinking about it from Nintendo's perspective, they are probably going to really lock down who has access to this stuff now. And that's a good thing. And I'm super happy I'm happy they took care of this now, because on this show for the last year, Justin, I've been saying, you're revealing a new console soon. You need to get this taken care of before you do that, before a leaker spoils the next console name or release date or the next big 3D Mario details on that. That is big generational stuff that only happens once a decade, and you don't want to ruin that story. So good on them for having this June Direct right now and locking down the site, not doing whatever it is they did, probably even more we don't know about, steps that they took internally just to try and seek this out. So yeah, good job, guys, because you found it and you announced a new Zelda game that we didn't know about, and that made it a really fun show. So I think it's over. The Pyoro era is over. We'll see about Ada Wong, though, if that's going to be our new least favorite leaker on Toadstool Boardroom. But let's move on to talk about some games that I have been playing on Nintendo Switch. A couple games out this week. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is out today, and Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble came out earlier this week on Tuesday. Justin, I've been playing both of them. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with Monkey Ball, because I have been seeing some buzz about this, which is so funny, because talking about this, we've talked a lot about how much the series has dipped, how much it has, let's say, fallen off over time. But it sounds like this is a return to form, question mark?
100%. It is easily the best Monkey Ball game in 20 years. It rules, and it's my game of the year so far, and that's not even a joke. That's legit. It's not going to be everybody's, but as a longtime hardcore Monkey Ball expert, this is everything I ever could have wanted. And a few months ago, on this show, I was super down on the announcement of this game, because if you go back and watch the reveal trailer, it looks like they were just trying to make a Fall Guys clone. And I knew that was never going to work on a console exclusive $50 retail game. You just can't build an audience like that. And on top of that, it didn't look like what I wanted from Monkey Ball. So that's how they marketed Banana Rumble. But secretly, tucked within is the greatest adventure campaign since the GameCube originals. It is 200 levels. It controls exactly how you want Monkey Ball to control. It is pinpoint precise. You move the stick 3 degrees to the left, the stage moves 3 degrees to the left. It controls perfectly, and the levels are so well designed, and there's no jumping, there's no motion controls, there's none of this gimmicky nonsense that weighted the series down ever since the Wii era and beyond. It's just pure Monkey Ball again. And they added this one thing called the spin dash, and it's basically they took a page out of Sonic the Hedgehog where you charge up and then you release and you get a boost of speed. And I was worried, oh, is this going to be like the jumping gimmick? Is this going to be something I don't want in my pure Monkey Ball? And no, it rules. It has made speed running potential off the charts for this game because of the shortcuts. And you can launch yourself off the tiny corner of a wall with your boost at the exact right time and careen 90 degrees to the left and launch yourself straight into the goal. And you can pull off these trick shots that Monkey Ball is known for in an entirely new way. And some levels make you use the spin dash and some don't, but you can still use it to take these really cool shortcuts. It rules. It is so good. I still have 50 levels to go. I'm getting into the really nitty-gritty, difficult expert stuff now, and I played for 7 hours straight yesterday. I played from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. because I was like, I couldn't even believe the time was passing. I didn't even get up off the couch to turn on the lights when it got dark outside. I'm just sitting there in the dark, rolling my monkey around for hours and hours. It's incredible. I am so surprised because I play these games out of obligation at this point because I haven't liked one since Super Monkey Ball 2 on GameCube. And the last one, Banana Mania, which was a remake of 1 and 2, is the biggest disappointment of my gaming life. They botched the originals so hard, I felt so burned by that game. So this one snuck up on me. I knew when it was coming out, but I wasn't excited. I download it. I play, and 5 minutes in, I knew, because of how it felt, I knew that they did it. They finally did it, and yeah, it's amazing.
So are there no motion controls at all?
It's optional. You can turn them on if you want, but I don't. I haven't even tried it because I don't want to. But they're there if you really want to, or if you have a young kid who likes moving the controller around, sure, you can try it.
Move the Pro Controller around. Have you messed around with the multiplayer at all?
Yeah, so there's 2 different multiplayer modes, and one of them is really, really cool. You can play the entire adventure mode in co-op, either local or online. You can play through all 200 stages with two to three other people, and it's amazing because the frame rate is consistent 60 FPS online if you're playing in single player or if you're playing online with another person. It was a little choppier split screen, but they said they're going to update that. I haven't checked again to see if they did. And how it works is basically if one monkey clears the stage, all the monkeys move on. So there's no skill gap. In the old ones, it was like, I clear a stage, and then my friend fails, and I'm 30 stages ahead, and they're just banging their head against the wall on this one stage, and they can't do it. But now everybody gets to move on, and it's made this really cool cooperative experience because there's also side objectives in each level, like a golden banana that you usually have to pull off a pretty cool trick shot to get. And so we basically do this thing. I was playing with my friend. He gets to the goal, and I'm going for the golden banana. And if I fail, we still completed the level. And if I get it, that's another side objective checked off. So it's a super cool, different take on co-op Monkey Ball that works really, really well.
I love the idea that I could just get in your backpack and let you carry me through the levels while I launch myself into the abyss repeatedly. So you said so how you mentioned kind of when we saw the initial trailers that it gave a lot of like Fall Guys vibes, and a lot of it was like kind of like the large scale like multiplayer stuff that they were doing.
Yes.
Have you dipped your toe into that?
I have, yeah, and it's pretty throwaway. Honestly, if they had marketed this as just a core Monkey Ball game and here's this little side mode, I don't think I'd feel as disappointed in it, but they really blew it up as, hey, this is the point of this game, and it's just not good. There are 5 different modes. There's racing, and there's 5 racetracks that you can race on with up to 16 other people online, or 16 total people online. There is a hot potato mode where you're passing a bomb back and forth and you don't want to be the monkey with the bomb when the time runs out. There is kind of like a ski jump mode where you're going downhill and there's these gates that you have to pass through to score points for your team. There is a find as many bananas as you can, which is like the coin runners mode in Mario Kart battle mode. And then I think there's one more. Oh, there's one where you just beat a bunch of giant robots senseless. And they're all super shallow. There's only between 2 and 5 maps for each mode. And they're pretty bland. I think a really strong equivalent is Mario Kart, because the racing is what people are there for. And then there's this battle mode that is fun for a little bit, but doesn't have much staying power. At least that's how I've always felt about battle mode. And that's how I feel here. I'm here for the levels. I'm here for the monkey ball, 60 seconds, get to the goal experience. And then there's this little distraction that I probably won't touch almost ever. And I don't see many people getting into it for very long.
Do we expect there's going to be any updates or additions to this in the future?
Yeah, there's a battle pass, which is really interesting. I don't think it's paid. It's just for the battle mode only, for these 16-player multiplayer modes I don't like. The more you play, you unlock cosmetics for your monkey. And it says Season 1 at the top right now.
Oh,
okay, I guess there's going to be a Season 2 of Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. I hope they add some maps or something, because just even though the modes are kind of bland, a little more variety would help a little bit. But also, it's funny. I am such a Monkey Ball purist that I play as Ai exclusively, the main character, so I've always played as. And they add all these new characters. There's 15 playable characters in this. Nope, I'm Ai. And then they give him this new outfit in this one that has overalls. Ai doesn't wear overalls. So once I had a few points, I went into the in-game shop. I bought a basic orange t-shirt. I slapped it on, and I haven't revisited the cosmetics shop since. I don't need any of that stuff.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, there's like glasses and hats and shirts and gloves and shoes and pants. No, I just need a t-shirt, and that's all. Yeah, I don't need it. But it's awesome. I highly recommend it if you ever liked the GameCube Monkey Balls, because a lot of people have been unplugged from the series because it's frankly been awful for 20 years, and I never thought we'd get this game. This is like a dream game of mine. It's basically as close to Super Monkey Ball 3 as I ever thought that we would get. It's just packaged in this. It's called Banana Rumble because they're totally marketing that 16-player mode. But just ignore all that. This is Super Monkey Ball 3, finally, after 20 years, and it is better than I expected. Some might say it's better than it has any right to be, which is a saying that some of you know I do not like. But yeah, if I were to say it, I might say it about this game, because it blew me it blew my expectations out of the water. It's awesome. Have you ever played a Monkey Ball, Justin?
Yeah, I've dabbled around with him. I mean, you watched me wreck myself repeatedly at PAX.
Yeah, that's right.
Last year, but I've never owned one, so I've only ever played it. Like my buddy John had it, so I played it at his house.
Okay. Yeah, it's so much fun. And I will say the party modes in Monkey Ball 1 and 2 are iconic. They had Monkey Target, where you're flying and you try to drop on the target in the middle of the ocean to score as many points as you can. There's nothing as good as that here in the party mode. So if you're looking for multiplayer, the core game is great. The party stuff is really disappointing. And that has been a really strong element of the series in the past. So it's a bummer to see that they kind of missed the mark here. Also, the performance in the 16-player online battles is awful. It drops to sub 30 frames per second, and you're just chugging with these other 15 monkeys running around the course. So there's some work to be done there, but I don't care. I literally don't care. I only played it so I could talk about it. I'm there for the 200 levels.
Logan's going to retire and become a Super Monkey Ball streamer.
I want to speedrun this game. I want to get really good and try and set some records, or at least some personal bests on some of these levels, because they're just so much fun and it feels so great. And then the other game, so that's Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. Play it if you like the originals. It's back. It is so back. And I am maybe the most critical person in the world of Monkey Ball's quality and how it feels. And this has my stamp of approval. It rules. Let's talk about Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. I've been playing this one a little bit. I'm a couple mansions in. There's 5 mansions in this game, and it's Luigi's Mansion 2. It's pretty much the same game. Some of the caveats I've been talking about in the months leading up to it I feel the same about when you're in a mission, it's a ton of fun, and there's actually some more creative and clever stuff than I remember that put it on par with Luigi's Mansion 1 and 3. Some really cool ideas they do, and just that Luigi's Mansion humor, like he looks into a toilet and it sprays the water all over his face, just stuff like that, like just the cute little animations it has. They're all here, but then your phone rings and Egad says, "I need you to leave the mansion," and then he talks your ear off for 2 minutes, and then he sends you back in. And it just does bring the pacing to a halt a little bit. It still feels like a handheld game, even in this new home console release. It looks really nice visually. The HD Coda paint it looks really good, not as good as 3, but better than something like what we're seeing from Donkey Kong Country Returns HD right now. It looks good, but I only really recommend this to people who have already played and really like 3, because there's no reason to start here with the series. If you say, I've never played a Luigi's Mansion game, should I play this one? No. You should go play 3. And if you adore 3, yeah, this one's worth picking up, but it's still a tier below Luigi's Mansion 3, which makes sense. It came before it. It's an older game on older hardware, but I just wish they'd done a little bit more to clean it up.
So is it fairly 1-to-1? I know that we had that impression from previews and things like that.
Yeah, it's the same game. It is straight up the same game. One thing that's huge, though, it controls much nicer. I do want to give huge props to how much more playable that makes this one feel, because on 3DS, you didn't have twin sticks. And even if you had the Circle Pad Pro, Luigi's Mansion 2 did not work with it. It was not supported. So what you were left with is if you've played 1 or 3, you move Luigi with the left stick and you control your vacuum angle with the right stick. And it works pretty great. But in Dark Moon on 3DS, you control Luigi with the left stick, and then it's a combination of shoulder buttons and motion controls to aim your vacuum around, and it's really cumbersome. And motion controls I'm fine with on a home console when I'm holding the controller and looking at the TV, but on a handheld where you're tilting the screen around and also trying to look at it, it's never felt as good. But this controls exactly like Luigi's Mansion 3, so that is something they did bring over from the sequel. It has really nice twin stick controls, still with optional motion controls, so that made it a lot more playable, and I remember it feeling cumbersome back in the day, and now it feels much, much nicer to control. So that is a big, big way that it's better than the original. Yeah. Are you still going to play, Justin? What do you think based on this assessment? What do you think of Luigi's Mansion 2?
Yeah, I think I always like to get very seasonal, and so I think I'm going to bust that out in October as my spooky
Yeah, I know.
Halloween
why is this out now? Why is it out right now? This should be out in October, but it felt weird creeping around haunted mansions and vacuuming up ghosts in June. It was kind of a weird vibe for that. But it's still good. I know I sound down on it, and that's just because I'm holding it to the standard of 3 and 1. Which are excellent Nintendo games. They're like top shelf games, and 2 is a very, very good Nintendo game. So it's a great game, but it's the weakest of the series. Yeah. I still wish that we had seen a port of 1 plus 2 in this collection, because 60 does feel a little steep to me for what this is. But if you've never played it before and you love the series, this is worth picking up and playing. It just feels, this is my monkey's paw curling. Why couldn't they have cleaned this one up a little bit more? Just remove the mission structure altogether, and I think you just have a much stronger game. So, yep, that is out.
Super Luigi Showtime.
Yeah. Oh, no. That's out now, the day that you're listening to this, Thursday, June 27th. So, yeah, I highly recommend Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. And Luigi's Mansion 2, it's good. It is more Luigi's Mansion if you adore that series, but if you don't, this one could be a skip for you. Let's wrap up here with EGAD's emails. We got a couple more non-direct related emails people sent into toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com. This first one comes from Jay, who we heard from earlier, who says, "Hello, Boardroom. Have been a listener since Logan plugged the episode on NVC. Have not missed an episode since. Keep up the great work." Well, thanks for hopping over, Jay. We appreciate it. "Since I have become an adult with disposable income, my gaming habits have changed drastically. I only ever play through a game once and immediately move on. However, when I was younger, I would play games to death. For example, every Pokemon game I'd play at least 3 times using each starter. I recently finished Baldur's Gate 3 and thought if I were younger, I'd play this over and over again. I felt the same about Elden Ring and Fire Emblem Three Houses. In a way, I miss this way of playing games, but there are too many great games out there. What recent releases do you think younger versions of yourself would play multiple times? What game would you like to play again, but don't have the time to do so? Thanks, Jay." I love this question because I think we can all relate to playing the same thing over and over and over when you're a kid. And now I don't even have time to finish everything I'd like to even one time. So it's much different. Justin, what are your answers to these?
Honestly, I think about this all the time because I did exactly that. I would play games front to back over and over and over again, and I do miss that. I miss how like completely and intimately you can know games when you do them that way.
Yeah.
I and certainly some of that has to do with the disposable income and having access to the next game. A lot of it also has to do with the fact that, frankly, as kids, you just have a lot more spare time. It's summer break now, so kids are getting a lot of that quality gaming time in,
Yeah. Nice.
and yeah, I wish I could do that. I mean, obviously the Zeldas come to mind. If I were a kid, by now I would have done every way there is to complete Breath of the Wild. I would have done get everything. I would have done go straight to the castle. I would have done
Yes.
get 2 divine beasts. I would have done the divine beasts in every order. I would have done themed clears where, all right, I'm a barbarian this time. I'm gonna play as a heavily armored knight this time. Like I would have done all of those things, and so like that's one that I definitely would have. Like I would happily have done things like deleted my Monster Hunter save by now and just started
Yes.
again from scratch, because it's so much fun to just climb the ladder from zero again and again. And so those are the things that I would absolutely every time be doing to like re-experience them. I've been slowly chipping my way through 13 Sentinels. That's one that I would have already finished by now and gone back to again, just like you would rewatch a favorite TV show more than once or a favorite movie. There's so many things I would just be going back to the well at again and again.
I have a question. So, do your kids play games that end, or do they play things like Minecraft, Fortnite, live service online games that don't end?
Depends.
Like, how are they spending their summer break gaming time? What are they working through single player things, or are they just playing stuff like that?
So right now they're both mostly playing fairly open-ended things. Like my son plays a lot of Roblox with his friends, and
Okay.
Roblox they do a lot of like worlds and themes that are based on other things. So he's been playing a very One Piece based game.
Oh, interesting.
Although
Okay.
he learned to read by playing Breath of the Wild, and when he showed up in like first grade and could just like read books, they were like, "Oh my God, you guys did such a great job." I was like, "I didn't do anything, man. He just played Zelda."
That's so great.
Don't give me too much credit. But he's done exactly that. He's done many playthroughs, the theme playthroughs, different orders, things like that. Whereas like my daughter mostly will either play things like she loves The Sims. She loves playing Gang Beasts with her friends and things like
Oh,
that.
cool.
Again, very open-ended things that
Yeah.
that don't have a firm start, and I do think that is largely how younger people play games today is they play these open-ended experiences. They'll maybe like dabble and get a taste of other things, but won't feel the same polar obligation to reach the end credits that we will.
Yeah. They are worlds that they hang out with their friends in, is really
That's
what it
exactly it.
seems like. Yeah. And that didn't really exist when I was a kid. I think that Minecraft kind of blew that open, and that happened like late middle school for me. And then
Yep,
I was on that
Minecraft's a
train
big
when
one.
it was huge. But before that, I don't know. I guess kind of like Halo was
Yep.
the thing that you would just play with your friends and just chat. But it wasn't even the same because that was a match and then a match and then a match. It's not Minecraft or Roblox where you're living in these worlds that you just keep returning to. So yeah, that's really interesting. For me, for this question, I think Tears of the Kingdom I would be on a replay of. I'd be on a replay where I tried to do. I have this idea where I want to replay the game and only wear the starting outfit, the tattered green tunic that you get on the
Yeah.
Great Sky Island that has no defense. I want to play the game with that, but I don't think I ever will. But that is probably something that I would do if I was a kid with this game. Ace Attorney, that sounds like a weird one to read. It is just like you said, watching a TV show again, just experiencing that story again. It's kind of sad to me that I have only played the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles one time because they're my favorite in the series, and I just haven't found the time to go back to them. It's like a 40 to 50 hour commitment, and I just would rather play something new. But I probably would have played that 3 or 4 times at this point. Those are probably my really big
I would
answers.
love to
I'm
play
trying
through
think
Age
if
of
there's more.
Calamity again.
Yes. I did that with a friend. It held up. It was
that's
still
lovely.
so much fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that game is really, really good. Super Mario Odyssey is a game I have played one time. And I think that if I was a kid, I probably would have played that game 10 to 15 times.
Both of my kids have beaten that game dozens of times.
Okay, sometimes when I'm on my Switch, I see that you're online, and then I look, and it's Super Mario Odyssey,
Yep.
and you have like 400 hours in that game or something like that. I'm like, oh, that's just
I
kids
would say
again.
that's mostly my daughter.
Yeah, it's such an amazing
It's a great
game.
game.
Why not?
Well, and
Yeah,
it's
so
great because like
good.
she'll be playing, and then I'll have a spare minute, so I'll just pop down and like I'll take over Cappy for a little bit, and get a
Nice.
little quality time, and then let her go on her way.
Yeah, it's super cool that they had that just two-player mode, and the same in Galaxy where you can be the Luma as a second player. It's really cool when they add that stuff.
Yeah.
Earthbound is a game I want to replay again. That's not even it's not even new, but it is one that I would really like to play again. There's so many. There's so many that I want to re-experience, and I don't know. It's tough because I don't think I will find time to replay a lot of these things, let alone play all the things that I want to. It's a good problem to have, of course. Yeah. It's a great problem to have, but yeah, replaying stuff when you're a kid is fun. What did you play the most when you were a kid? What was the game you say you beat the most times?
Oh, Mega Man X, easily.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. It would have been.
And like the ones I played through the most were Mega Man X, Super Metroid, and Link to the Past. But Mega Man X is way shorter.
Yeah. I think I beat Sonic Generations probably 15 times. I've played that game so many times. It's short. It's like 6 hours, but I've finished that game a ton of times. Yep. And then Ocarina of Time. I play that game every year still. That is one that I still do make the time to go back and replay. Well, that's a super fun question, Jay. How about listeners? Email in, what game do you wish you could replay again? And what game did you play over and over again when you were a kid? Email us, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com. And last question before we get out of here comes from Red Stag Gaming, who says, hey guys, love listening to the show. I wanted to get your thoughts on getting the Zelda Switch Lite coming out, but I'm curious on your thoughts. If that comes out in September, how likely is it that we get the new Nintendo Switch announcement in October and maybe hold off and just put the money towards that, since the Switch Lite would probably just sit there and not get as much? This is the question we're all asking. It's a question we're all asking right now. Yeah, Justin, I'll let you go first on this one.
Assuming you are able to buy the hardware when it comes out, both financially and in terms of availability, you will not go an entire calendar year with that as your primary Nintendo console. And so if you were buying it, I really believe you should be buying it as a collector's item or as something that has some like importance or meanings beyond just being your main gameplay platform. Yeah, I think you are maybe 6 to 9 months from swapping that out for something else.
Yeah, I agree. It's a tough one. If it came with the game, or if it was less than $200 on its own, it'd be so much easier to recommend. But I think, yeah, like Justin nailed it. Being a year out from Switch 2, and you already have a Switch working right now, I'm assuming, I don't know if you said that you have a Switch. I'll assume if you're listening to our show, you have a Nintendo Switch of some sort. You should wait. You should wait. I think that it is a collector's item. I think that if you're okay, both kind of mentally and financially, accepting the fact that you're going to buy this and get very little use out of it until the next thing comes along, and you just want that beautiful gold Switch Lite, then go for it. But if you can only afford one, just wait for next year. Wait for the Switch.
Are you going to get it, Logan?
I don't know. I might be talking myself out of it right now. I'm not sure. I like it so much. It's really nice, and I don't have a Lite right now.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't? I'm surprised.
No, I don't. Yeah. If I sold my Lite so I had one at one point, and I sold it so I could upgrade to the OLED. Yeah, I kind of got rid of, because I had a Lite and a base, I got rid of both models to get the OLED a couple years back. Yeah. But it's so nice. I wish it was an OLED screen, because it would be so easy to convince myself.
Yeah. Yeah, if you had like the specifically portable version with the OLED screen.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and honestly, that's where I'm at. Yeah. Honestly, if this were a base Switch, I would buy it. But I don't particularly want a Switch Lite because I don't like to play in handheld when I don't have to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the only reason I'm skipping it.
I love to play in handheld. I have gold systems everywhere in my office right now. I love them, and
you
it would be really great to play. I know. It'd be really cool to play Echoes of Wisdom on the gold Switch Lite, but it would be the OLED, and I just would know I'd have the compromised experience because I love that screen so much. So I think I'm passing on it, and I think that I'd probably recommend that you do too, because if you buy the Switch Lite and then they announce Mario Kart 9 and Super Mario Odyssey 2 next year, shoot, Why did I buy this thing? I
Yeah.
think that's probably what you would be feeling a year from now. Yeah. So that's our show. That is another episode of the Toadstool Boardroom in the books. We're a weekly Nintendo show here on Thursdays, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, video version on YouTube, audio, everywhere else you like to listen to your shows. You can find us on Twitter at ToadstoolBR. Send us an email, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com, and head over to Twitter to find our link to the Discord server. We also usually put it in the description of the episode to come and hop in. Today, I was asking, it's summer, where is Switch Sports Basketball? Because they said it was coming this summer. Why didn't they give us a release date for that? It was cracking me up. Justin, you're also in that Discord server, but where else are you on the internet?
Yeah, and I will say, as far as that Discord goes, like we're all active in there. It's a great community. Come join the fun. You can find me on Twitter at KOREIS. I've mainly been working on build guides for the Shadow of the Erdtree expansion for Elden Ring at IGN.com. So if you want to check out some sweet fisticuffs, or hopefully by the time you watch or listen to this, we'll have a ridiculous Giga Hammer build that I've been working on. You can check that out. I also just had a review of a shooter called Body Cam Go Up. Spoilers, it's not great. But frankly, that's where most of my stuff is ending up nowadays, is on IGN.com. So, it's a good website. You may have heard of it. You should check it out.
It's a good place to be. Yeah. Is Body Cam like the latest in the Lethal Company style of game, or is it something different?
Yeah, so it kind of almost seems like, and I kind of get into this in the review, but it kind of seems like it's mimicking a game that's not out yet called Re-Recorded, which is shot from the perspective of a police body cam, which comes with its own baggage, but it's in Unreal 5, and it looks pretty spectacular, and some of that actually is because of things you can get away with in that slightly warped image through that camera lens. So it frequently, if you just stop and look at it, looks exceptionally lifelike, but the rest of it is not super great. If you're curious about that, read my review. I go into detail for what and why, and then play some Elden Ring and punch a dragon in the face. I'll show you how.
Nice. Very nice. You can find me on Twitter at Logan J Plant. I'm playing Monkey Ball. I am playing Luigi. I'm so excited about Monkey Ball. I am going to have a review of it up on IGN soon. I wasn't assigned to this, and I just hit up our reviews editor and I said, hey, I love this so much. Can I write a review? It's like, yeah, sure, go for it. So I'm super psyched to write a Monkey Ball review. Look out for that probably early next week. Yeah, find me on Twitter at Logan J Plant just to see all the... It's a shame. The Nintendo killed the posting video clips straight to Twitter from your Switch last month. For understandable reasons. It's a dumpster fire now. But I have so many sick replays that I have to load onto the computer and then post. It's just that extra step.
Smartphone to hit the
QR
code.
The QR code. Yeah, I did that last night to post a screenshot. It's like, oh, you have to hook up to a Wi-Fi network that the Switch creates itself. It's so weird. It's a bizarre system. So I wish I could be sharing my replays with all of you more easily, but I'll probably end up doing that anyways. But for now, that's all the time I've got. I got to get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS. Thanks so much for listening this week in the Toadstool Boardroom. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next time right here with another episode of the Toadstool Boardroom.